What if I told you the staff of Moses might still be among us today? Some say it rests in a showcase in Istanbul, others say it will remain hidden until the end of time. So, where does the truth hide? Across the Abrahamic traditions, a staff symbolizes journey, trial, and miracle. A shepherd's stick becomes a sign against oppression, a hope that parts the sea. The staff is more than wood, it is a story carried forward. Sacred texts recount wonders linked to a staff: water springing from rock, the sea parting, magicians' tricks undone. Details vary between traditions, but one theme remains: the staff is described as an instrument pointing to divine power. Jewish Christian texts also mention Aaron's rod, sometimes linked to the Ark of the Covenant. Popular storytelling often confuses the two. In this video we follow the claims specifically about Moses' staff. Nestled within the heart of Istanbul, overlooking the shimmering Bosphorus, stands the magnificent Topkapi Palace, the seat of Ottoman power for nearly 4 centuries. But beyond its opulent courtyards, it holds a collection of unparalleled spiritual significance. Inside the hallowed walls of the privy chamber, amidst a hushed reverence, lies a collection known as the Amanat-i Mukaddese, or the Sacred Trusts. Here, pilgrims and tourists gather, their gazes fixed on treasures believed to have belonged to the great prophets. Among them, displayed with profound respect, is a simple wooden rod exhibited under the name Asa-i Musa, the staff of Moses. Measuring roughly 4 feet long and fashioned from dark polished wood, it rests in a specially crafted reliquary. It is an object of immense veneration, a focal point of faith, and a source of intense, unending curiosity. The story of how this sacred object arrived in Istanbul is a tale of conquest and the consolidation of power. Ottoman-era accounts, meticulously recorded in the palace archives, say parts of the sacred relics were transferred from Egypt to Istanbul in the 16th century. This followed the formidable Sultan Selim I's stunning victory over the Mamluk Sultanate in 1517. With this conquest, the Ottomans inherited the guardianship of Islam's holy cities. To legitimize his new status as caliph, leader of the Muslim world, Selim orchestrated a symbolic masterstroke. He ordered the transfer of the relics which had been safeguarded by the Mamluks in Cairo for centuries to his palace in Istanbul. Along with the purported staff of Moses came other revered artifacts: the sword of David, the turban of Joseph, and the holy mantle of the prophet Muhammad. This act was more than collecting trophies. It was a profound political and religious declaration that the center of Islamic authority had shifted from Cairo to Istanbul, with the Ottoman Sultan as its new protector. Of all the artifacts said to have survived from the Exodus, the Topkapi staff represents the most prominent and best-known claim about where the staff might be today. Its provenance is backed by 5 centuries of Ottoman imperial tradition and continuous veneration. However, this claim is not without its complexities. Historians approach it with caution, emphasizing the vast, unbridgeable gap in its chain of custody. The journey of any object from the Sinai Desert over 3 millennia ago to a 16th century Mamluk treasury is impossible to trace with empirical certainty. The Mamluks themselves acquired these items over time, their authenticity often rooted in powerful oral traditions and faith rather than verifiable documentation. This places the staff at the fascinating intersection of belief and historical inquiry. For millions of believers, its spiritual power is undeniable, reinforced by centuries of prayer. Its simple, unadorned nature aligns perfectly with the biblical image of Moses the shepherd. Yet for academics, the absence of concrete proof means its identity must remain a matter of faith, not fact. The Topkapi staff is a powerful symbol, an object that forces us to question how we define authenticity. Is it through unbroken historical records or through the enduring power of human faith? When confronted with an object of such immense significance, the first question is always one of authenticity. Can we say with absolute certainty, this is Moses' staff? The immediate and unequivocal answer from a historical perspective is no. The primary reason lies in the absence of a complete and verifiable history of the object, what experts call provenance. For an artifact to be authenticated, archives must provide an unbroken chain of custody, tracing its ownership and location from the moment of its creation to the present day. With the staff of Moses, this chain is shattered from the very beginning. The biblical narrative itself leaves its fate ambiguous after the Israelites enter the Promised Land. For over 2 millennia, the staff vanishes from any credible historical record. It only resurfaces in the 16th century, when the Ottoman Sultan Selim I conquered the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt and transferred a collection of sacred relics including the staff to the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. But where was it for the 2,000 years prior? Who guarded it? How was it preserved? The records are silent, leaving a gap so vast that it cannot be bridged by historical documentation alone. This lack of a clear lineage means that any claim to its identity rests more on tradition and belief than on verifiable fact. If the historical record fails us, can modern science offer a definitive answer? Here, we encounter another set of profound challenges. Scientific tests, like radiocarbon dating, are rarely applied to sacred relics for a number of reasons. Firstly, the process is often destructive. Radiocarbon dating requires taking a physical sample of the object, an act that many consider a desecration of something held to be holy. Institutions that act as custodians of these relics are understandably reluctant to permit such invasive procedures. They have little to gain from a test that might disprove a cherished tradition, and even a positive result would be inconclusive. For instance, if radiocarbon dating placed the wood's origin in the 13th century BCE, the era of Moses, it would be a remarkable finding. But it would only date the material, not prove its ownership. It would confirm you have a very old piece of wood, not that it was held by Moses. Conversely, a result dating it to the Middle Ages would definitively prove it to be a later creation. Other scientific methods, like dendrochronology, could potentially trace the wood to a specific geographic region and year by analyzing its tree rings, while palynology could identify ancient pollen trapped in its fibers, hinting at the environments it has passed through. Yet even these advanced techniques lead us to the same fundamental impasse. They can tell us about the object but not about its story or its wielder. Science can verify the what, when, and where of the material, but it cannot verify the who. That is why its authenticity remains and will likely always remain vigorously debated. The question of the staff's legitimacy is not one that can be settled in a laboratory. It is a collision point between empirical evidence and enduring faith. Some Islamic narrations say the staff was entrusted among spiritual leaders and will reappear with the Mahdi, a devotional expectation rather than a museum record. In other regions, local stories claim a staff is kept there. Academic literature does not confirm these. Relics bind faith, history, and identity. When we look at a showcase, we also look into memory. Where do we stand in this story? So the question is not only about an object, it's about remembrance. Could a wooden object from millennia ago survive intact? It depends: climate, storage, human handling. In theory, a find is possible. In practice, we often meet traces: resin, fibers, coatings. Science can date matter. It cannot by itself answer, was it his? If you visit Istanbul, you can view the staff exhibited among the sacred relics respectfully. Museum etiquette is simple. No flash, don't touch the glass, keep silence. Whatever one thinks of authenticity, what's preserved there is the memory of a tradition. So where is it? After a journey that has taken us from the banks of the Nile, through the unforgiving wilderness of Sinai, and across millennia of whispered legends and scholarly debate, we arrive at the final, unavoidable question. The certain answer, the one that can be proven with carbon dating and placed in a museum, is simply this: we do not know. For an object of such monumental significance, its final resting place remains one of history's most profound and tantalizing mysteries. This lack of a definitive location has not, of course, deterred the faithful or the adventurous. Over the last century, numerous expeditions, both official and amateur, have sought to uncover it. They have scoured the caves near Mount Nebo, where scripture suggests Moses was last seen. They have used ground-penetrating radar in the Judean desert and analyzed satellite imagery for geological anomalies that might indicate a hidden chamber. As one archaeologist noted, "You're not just looking for an artifact, you are searching for the physical anchor of a foundational story. The odds are astronomical, but the pull of that story is irresistible." Yet every search has ended in the same way, with empty hands and the silent, shifting sands. But perhaps to focus solely on a physical recovery is to miss the point entirely. The staff of Moses, or the rod of God, was never truly about the wood it was carved from. Its power was symbolic. It was a conduit for the divine, an instrument of liberation that parted the sea, and a symbol of the heavy burden of leadership. Its significance wasn't inherent in the object itself, but in the faith that people invested in it. In that sense, the staff has never truly been lost, because the idea it represents is indestructible. This is why the story endures, woven into the very fabric of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We see it depicted in the earliest catacomb frescoes, in magnificent Renaissance paintings, and in the grand epics of Hollywood. A historian of religion might say, the staff is a narrative touchstone. It allows each generation to explore timeless questions of faith, authority, and the relationship between humanity and a higher power. Its physical absence almost enhances its symbolic potency. It can belong to everyone because it can be held by no one. And this brings us back from the windswept deserts and dusty archives to a more intimate, personal space. Perhaps the deeper value of this entire quest is to ask the question not only of an ancient object but of our own hearts. The search for the staff is a mirror for our own search for meaning in a world of uncertainty. So we must ask, what trusts do we carry? Is it the legacy of our ancestors, the principles we vow to uphold, or the fragile hope for a better future that we pass to our children? Which stories do we choose to keep alive? The tale of the staff is a powerful story of freedom and faith, but what are the other stories of courage, compassion, and perseverance that we must champion and retell, ensuring they are not lost to time? The trail of the staff is, in the end, a trail through human history itself, a path of faith, doubt, hope, and endless curiosity. The true relic may not be an object waiting to be unearthed, but the enduring, unquenchable human spirit that continues to ask the questions and follow the trail. Sometimes, the journey itself is the destination. Following the trail teaches far more than arriving ever could.